8. Amanda ECKBLAD. In 2018, a high school truancy program worker in Racine, Wisconsin was accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a young convicted felon and of buying him a gun. When the allegations against 22-year-old Amanda ECKBLAD surfaced, detectives managed to recover incriminating video evidence from her phone. They also discovered that her underage lover lived with her, although it's unclear how the two met. ECKBLAD lost her job and faced a slew of charges in connection with the illicit relationship. She pleaded no contest to child abuse and making a straw purchase, which is when a person who's authorized to buy a gun obtains one for someone who isn't legally allowed to have one. Prosecutors agreed to recommend a 3-year sentence and to drop the most incriminating charge in exchange for the plea. 7. Michael and Heather Jones. A call about a domestic dispute turned out to be something much worse in 2015 when Kansas City police visited the residence of Michael and Heather Jones. Officers found the remains of Michael's son and Heather's stepson, whose body had been fed to the couple's pigs. After police charged the couple with first-degree murder, their landlord found photos of what the couple had done to the boy. The 7-year-old was often forced to stay outside for hours on end, sometimes in dirty, neck-deep pool water. He was deprived of food entirely or forced to eat spoiled food that was infested with bugs. The images show that he became more gaunt and defeated-looking in the time leading up to his death. They also display the array of injuries he suffered over a period of at least 9 months. After he passed away in a shower where his parents had confined him, they allegedly left his body there for 2 weeks before throwing it in the pig pen. By then, the boy's grandmother, Judy Conway, had contacted the Kansas Department for Children and Families, DCF, twice. She was worried about her grandson because his parents had stopped letting her see him. Judy reported to local station KSHB that the agency told her that they couldn't look into it if she didn't know for sure whether any abuse was happening. 2 years before the child's death, when the family lived in Missouri, the state's Social Services Children's Division found evidence that he was being abused. The boy had provided caseworkers with descriptions of being kicked, hit, and locked in his room. Heather and Michael allegedly even admitted that they didn't want the child living with them anymore. However, the home was surprisingly deemed safe, and the boy remained in his parents' care. Heather and Michael Jones received life sentences, but some believe that the social workers who failed to take action to keep the boy safe should also be held accountable. Former Kansas DCF Deputy Director Diane Keach told KSHB that she quit her job over the department's handling of cases, including its refusal to turn records over to the child's grandmother after his death. According to Keach, this isn't a one-off example of caseworkers failing to take action or missing signs. She said that she's reviewed numerous instances of it happening. In 2017, Conway still hadn't gained access to the record since losing her grandson, and she's now a dedicated advocate for change within the system. 6. Robert Riley Saunders. As a caseworker for the Ministry of Children and Family Development in British Columbia, Robert Riley Saunders had a responsibility to ensure that vulnerable children were safe. However, he allegedly took at least 24 kids away from stable and loving homes in a disturbing plot to make them eligible for financial benefits so that he could pocket the cash. Over a 6.5-year period, Saunders reportedly stole around $460,000 in benefits meant for kids that he kept for himself. To pull off the scam, he used fraudulent paperwork and opened joint bank accounts for himself and each child. This gave him access to the beneficiary's money. When the checks came in, he transferred or deposited the funds into his own account. Saunders used the money to create a false image of being rich. He tripled his income and lived wildly outside his means based on his actual earned pay. With this stolen money, he purchased a nice home, a boat, several vehicles, and also enjoyed multiple vacations. His fraudulent activity was finally discovered in 2017 when his regular supervisor was away and someone else was filling in. Saunders soon found himself facing charges including fraud. He argued that he didn't harm anyone with what he was doing, but the prosecution quickly disproved this claim, and rightfully so. In addition to being criminally charged, Saunders lost his job, struggled to find another, and his adult children have distanced themselves from him. He eventually pleaded guilty to fraud and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. 5. Robin Nicheta. Arapahoe County, Colorado social worker Robin Nicheta got upset with City Council member Danielle Jurinsky in 2022 for making some disapproving comments about her partner, Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson. Jurinsky was very open about her dislike for Wilson, describing the woman as trash and saying that people in Aurora are no longer safe. The next day, someone accused Jurinsky of abusing her toddler son in an anonymous complaint to Arapahoe County Social Services. The caller claimed to be an employee at a restaurant Jurinsky owns and said that they witnessed the abuse firsthand. Authorities thoroughly investigated the complaint and found no evidence of any wrongdoing on Jurinsky's part. Based on the timing of the report, the city council member suspected that someone had filed the complaint as retaliation for her remarks about Wilson. The call was traced to Nicheta's phone, and detectives agreed that the caller sounded just like her. She denied making the false report, but said that Wilson and others had access to her phone. A search of her laptop revealed that she'd looked up Jurinsky's address, despite claiming she didn't know where the representative lived. Nicheta was charged with a Class 6 felony of retaliating against an elected official and misdemeanor-level false reporting. Wilson has adamantly denied any involvement in the situation, and her relationship with Nicheta has ended since the arrest. She was fired from her job as police chief, and her lawyer believes that Jurinsky's campaign to oust her influenced the decision. Although there's no evidence to indicate that she had anything to do with the false reporting. A few months after being charged, Nicheta also fell under investigation by the FBI. She had allegedly manipulated the child protective system to her advantage in a custody battle over her own child. While she hasn't been criminally charged in that case, she's accused of falsely claiming that her former partner attacked her. On the civil end of things, lawyers are reportedly preparing to file a class action lawsuit against Nicheta on behalf of several parents who've come forward. They accused her of committing systemic fraud during her career as a caseworker. 4. Dallas Ray Jasper. In June of 2021, police in West Melbourne, Florida received a call about a 5-year-old boy who'd supposedly drowned in the care of his mother's boyfriend. The boy's mother, 27-year-old Erica Dodson, claimed that she'd called her partner, 25-year-old Joshua Mans, who told her she shouldn't be driving because her son was not good. A 911 dispatcher tried reaching Mans to give him instructions on how to administer CPR, but he was long gone by then. Mans had fled the scene, leaving a note claiming that he had a seizure while bathing the child and passed out. When he came to, the little boy was unresponsive in the water. Mans wrote in the note that he'd tried to perform CPR but had failed to revive him. Investigators found evidence that the boy was abused in the weeks leading up to his death. There was also nothing found to suggest he drowned, hinting that more sinister factors were at play. They tracked Mans down and charged both him and Dodson with first-degree murder and are seeking the death penalty in both cases. However, prosecutors allege that there are others who contributed to the child's death by failing to fight for him when there were obvious signs that he was being mistreated. 3 daycare workers are being accused of failing to report known or suspected child abuse, despite the boy's obvious injuries over at least a several-week period. Daycare workers are considered mandatory reporters, which means that they can be held criminally responsible if they observe evidence of suspected child abuse and fail to report it. This is what appears to have happened in this particular case. A social worker from the Department of Children and Families, DCF, is also accused of failing to report suspected abuse. 26-year-old Dallas Jasper was at the little boy's daycare on an unrelated case one day shortly before his death. Workers told her that the child's mother had dropped him off with injuries and claimed that he'd been attacked by ducks. They reportedly asked Jasper if they should report the incident to DCF. She allegedly told the employees that if the boy's and his mother's stories matched up, DCF couldn't do much to help. By then, the agency had already received reports about injuries in the past, including 2 broken legs. Sadly, nobody advocated strongly enough for the child to ensure his safety, and tragedies like this are exactly why mandatory reporting laws exist. 3. Olivia Gordon. In 2019, Olivia Gordon was working as the Director of Social Services at a rehab center in Far Rockaway, Queens, when she allegedly stole more than $150,000 from an elderly client. She was also accused of taking steps to make herself the heir of the 90-year-old victim's $1 million annuity. The patient had been transferred to Gordon's workplace after falling in her Brooklyn home and spending some time in the hospital. Not long after that, money began mysteriously disappearing from the woman's bank account. At first, nobody noticed anything suspicious, despite large withdrawals being made. In the first month alone, nearly $13,000 was taken from the senior citizen's account. 3 more withdrawals followed, with the largest totaling more than $106,000. Gordon had access to the victim's bank account information, so detectives naturally suspected her of being responsible for the theft. They found bank deposits, credit card payments, and a student loan payment, with each totaling the same exact amount as one of the withdrawals. Shockingly, the company that oversees the victim had received a beneficiary form from Gordon, claiming that she was the woman's caretaker/pseudo-grandchild. The financial institution refused to disburse a payout that she had requested because they were unable to reach the elderly woman directly to confirm that the request was valid. In early 2021, Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz announced that 28-year-old Gordon had been charged with grand larceny, identity theft, and other crimes related to her alleged fraud. 2. CANDACE TALLEY. In 2017, a caseworker from Pennsylvania's Division of Children and Youth Services allegedly told a desperate mother that she'd help her regain custody of her kids if she began working as a prostitute. In order to get her children back, the woman agreed to 27-year-old Candace Talley's deal. Talley apparently drove the woman to all of her dates and took half of her pay, including a 25% cut for herself and a 25% cut for the pimp running the business. She persuaded the woman with the prospect of making $1,000 per day. Talley also promised that she would help her get clean drug test results regardless of whether or not she was using. The victim reported Talley the same year the offer was made, and she was fired just months after starting the job. Detectives spent the next 2 years investigating, and in 2020, they charged Talley with human trafficking, promoting prostitution, and various other crimes. Prosecutors accused her of being part of an extensive prostitution ring and of targeting the victim after seeing that she'd been arrested for prostitution and drugs in the past. Talley pleaded guilty to promoting prostitution and human trafficking and received 6 months of monitored probation. She was also ordered to have no contact with the victim or their family. 1. Nicole Berry. 25-year-old Nicole Berry was offered a job as a mental health worker in Greater Manchester, England in 2019, so she went out drinking to celebrate with her boyfriend Justin Henry. The couple went out to dinner, and then Henry bought his girlfriend a few bottles of vodka to congratulate her. Around 2 in the morning, Henry got into an argument outdoors with a man named Paul Dan, who was out celebrating his friend's 21st birthday. At least a dozen people got involved in the confrontation, most of whom seemed to be fed up with Henry's alleged aggressive behavior. He continued to run his mouth despite being outnumbered and at a clear disadvantage. The crowd pushed Henry to the ground and began kicking and stomping on him when Miss Berry saw what was going on and rushed over. She threw the bottles of vodka at the group, one of which hit Dan in the head, leaving him with a permanent scar and recurring migraines. Berry was arrested and was suspended from her job pending the outcome of the case. She later pleaded guilty to unlawful wounding and received a 12-month suspended sentence. The disgraced social worker was also ordered to perform 100 hours of community service, attend 15 days of rehab, and cooperate with a 60-day alcohol monitoring program. Additionally, she was forced to pay £750 to her victim, as well as £350 in court fees. Would you rather find out that your instincts about a corrupt social worker were right all along, or be accused of filing a false complaint even though you made the report in good faith? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time. Bye!